not only don't speak to each other, but sell him to servitude and tell him that he was torn to pieces by a wild animal? He wants to be a father of wild animals? Yosef will have to keep his secret till the house of Yaakov will change. Only if the children of Yaakov will make true tshuva, they will be able to look their fathers in the eyes. So he did the wisest thing on earth, not to do premature actions. And he waits. The man of dreams know that waiting is profitable. And one day, because of the first year of starvation, they arrived. Joseph is highly intelligent. And in a minute he realizes that only 10 have come and not 11. Which means that the discrimination in the house of Jacob continues. Just as he favored him, Joseph, now old Yaakov is favoring Binyamin, the only surviving son of Rachel, his beloved wife. And this quick thinking man decides on the moment to make use of the fact of the special love of Yaakov to Binyamin, which means that the story is the same story. Just as Yosef didn't go to Shechem, Binyamin is not going to Egypt. You understand? The parallelism is very clear, and Yosef understands. But since I don't consult my notes, I forgot something very important. First of all, he got a legitimate wife, Osnat bat Potiphar, which is not related to Potiphera, the first one. No, excuse me, the first one was Potiphar, and now it's Potiphar. And he begets two sons. The firstborn he calls Menashe, and the second one he calls Ephraim. And Nun Shin Hey in Hebrew, and I give you another interpretation than Robert Alter, Nun Shin Hey in Hebrew means to forget. And Yaakov and Yosef calls his son Menashe, the one who causes me to forget. And he explains the giving of the name, and he says, because Kinashani Elokim et kol amali et kol beit abi, because God has enabled me to forget all my suffering and the house of my father. What does it mean? As you know, there are two sorts of memory. There's an informational memory, and there is an emotional memory. If I say to a friend, I forgot what you have done to me last week, I mean, I remember very well what you have done to me last week, but it stops to bother me. Which means we are not in the sphere of information, we are in the emotional or the ethical sphere. And Yosef is saying, I'll call my firstborn Menashe, because God enabled me to forget all my suffering. For me, this is highly important, because you know the second part of the story, you remain here till midnight. So the second part of the story is that you will be very brutal to his brothers. And we wonder whether this is sadism, revenge, or this is education. So before we reach the second part of the story, the narrator, the Torah tells us, he calls his first son Menashe because he really forgot. And he doesn't need revenge anymore. Imagine two persons who survive Auschwitz, And they come to Israel and they marry very quickly. You know, this is how it happened 50 years ago. They want very quickly to build up a family. And they call their first son Menashe. Say, thanks to God that we are able to go back to normal life. Not that they forgot what happened to them, but it stopped to be traumatic to this extent that it directs their lives. I believe this is a very beautiful aspect of our story. The second one he calls Ephraim because God made me fruitful, be'eretz oni, in the land of my suffering, which means that he longs very much to go back to the humble life in Beersheba and not to stay there in Egypt. But he cannot, because he is a man of destiny, of a man who fulfills divine destiny, even if he doesn't understand it exactly. So now he sees his 10 brothers there. And he, like in homeopathic medicine, God forbid, he uses small pieces of what they have done to him, so that as medicine. He wants them to undergo in small portions what they have done to him. Because if they don't feel what is done to him, how can they change? So they said, you said about me that I am a spy. You are spies. You came to uncover the nakedness of my country. So they say, we are spies. We are a family of 12 and brothers are never spies. You know, this is ridiculous. We know from the story that this is ridiculous. And he is laughing there behind his golden gowns, you know, the brothers don't spy on each other and so on. So he says, no, you are spies and you go to prison. I want you to test something of an Egyptian prison. And you know, there is no habeas corpus in Egypt. So if you go into a prison, you know the date of your entrance, but you don't know when you are relieved from this prison. So he says, you send one of your brothers to the land of Canaan, and he will bring your brother. And then I will see that you are saying the truth. That they say one has died, Chad Enenu, and the other one is a small one who stayed to attend our father. So you bring Binyamin, which is simply impossible. So the sin was sending one of the brothers to Egypt. The punishment is that all of them are kept in Egypt. But after 3 days he says, you know, I am a humane ruler, I don't do such things. I know that your families are starving there in the land of Canaan. I change the ruling. I will keep one of you, and the 9 will go with the donkeys, with all the food, will go back and feed your families. And now they suffer from what they have done. Formerly it was a sin that one of the brothers is torn from the family. Now it's a punishment. Shimon is torn from them and sent to prison. It's a hostage. And they start to make tshuva. And they say to each other, אבל אשמים אנחנו על אחינו אשר ראינו צרת נפשו. We are to be blamed for this. We deserve this because we have seen the suffering of our brother and we haven't listened to him. And Joseph cannot take it. And he goes to another room and weeps. And then washes his face and comes back. Which is another proof that he's doing it because he feels like a harsh educator. That this is highly necessary to make a deep change in their personality. And without this hard measures, he will never reach it. So he's sending them back 9 out of the 10. And as you remember, he makes an order that they put the payment for the bread or the grain which they got in their bags. When they open their bags, they see the money there, and they are in total hysteria, in total shock, because now they know that they will be accused of robbery, and they are robbers. They stole their brother, they got money for their brother, and they know internally in their hearts that they deserve to be regarded as robbers. And they return to Yaakov and they tell him the truth, that they are not able to return to Egypt without Binyamin. Simply impossible. Yosef made it very, or the viceroy of Pharaoh made it very clear. It's utterly impossible. You will never get 1 grain of wheat if you don't bring Binyamin. And now Reuven says to Yaakov, you can kill 2 of my sons if I don't bring him alive, which is not very. Rashi says Bechor Shoteh. He is a Bechor, but he is a leader. Yaakov will try to kill his grandchildren as a revenge for. Then Yehuda, who is always 1 step higher than Reuven, comes and say, I will be the guarantee for him, and if I don't bring him, I will be sinning to you all my life. But what is so beautiful in the story, imagine the sacks of grain in the tent of Yaakov. Like the Kinneret, they have a level, right? Every day they are sinking a little. They don't treasure their father. They don't say to their father the truth, because you like Binyamin, our wives and children will starve out. They let the grain speak for them. They realize that the lower the level of the grain will come down, Yaakov will finally understand the reality of the situation. And this is what happens. I appreciate so much their passivity. The Torah tells us a true ethical story. They are different. So finally Yaakov, who is like to bossing around, so he gives them all kind of advices. Now he's again in charge. And he says, you take a double amount of money and you bring for the produce of the land of Canaan all kind of medicine and perfumes, and you go there and you take Binyamin. ואני, כאשר עבדתי, you understand that Malka Esther, when he says, ואני שכלתי, this is a reflection of what Yaakov is saying. If I'm lost, I'm lost. I risk all my future because I love him more than I love you. I won't be able to take it if he does not come back. And Egypt is a very dangerous place. An unpredictable place of cruelty, of governmental cruelty. So they take Binyamin and they bring him to the palace. And once there is an officer there, and they try to make clear that they brought a double amount of money and they are not thieves. And this KGB officer, they always smile, you know. With a Russian smile says, don't worry, I got your money. It's probably from God. You know, you Jews believe in God. It's from God. And he says, you are invited to a dinner in the Kremlin with the viceroy of Pharaoh. which is an honor which most Israelis don't like to get in those bad days. They feel that they are